So apparently, there's now an FDA-approved vibrating belt that's supposed to help save your bones from osteoporosis. I know. Sounds like something you'd see on a late-night infomercial next to the AB roller. But this one actually has some science behind it.
Hi there, I'm Tony Lee, and this is Hot Flasher, your daily menopause podcast that serves up fresh news, research, and wellness tips. I've built a daily news pipeline to find the latest on women's health and menopause research. Allow me to introduce my co-host, Nikki, who handles the headlines. Take it away, Nikki.
Thanks, Tony. We've got some interesting research to dig into today. First up, a study out of Japan that really confirms what a lot of us already suspected. When you're dealing with menopause symptoms at work, people notice, and not always in a good way. Researchers looked at over 1,400 Japanese women and have found a clear connection between menopause symptoms and workplace mistreatment. The women experiencing more severe hot flashes, sleep disruption, and mood changes were significantly more likely to report being bullied, harassed, or discriminated against by colleagues and supervisors. Now, this study was published in PubMed just this month, and while it focused on Japanese workplaces, I think most of us can recognize the dynamic. You're already dealing with your body doing things you can't control, and then you've got to navigate office politics on top of it. The researchers found that women with moderate to severe symptoms were 60% more likely to experience what they called workplace mistreatment. What struck me about this research is how it quantifies something that's been pretty invisible. We talk about menopause affecting our work performance, but this study shows it's not just about how we feel. It's about how others treat us when we're visibly struggling. The authors noted that symptoms like irritability and difficulty concentrating seem to trigger more negative responses from co-workers than physical symptoms. That tells us something important about workplace culture and how little understanding there still is about what menopause actually involves. When someone's performance changes or they seem more stressed, the default assumption isn't maybe they're going through a major life transition. It's often something much less charitable. Moving on to some research that connects two major reproductive health issues in a way that might surprise you. A new longitudinal study published in the journal Menopause found that women who experience primary infertility, meaning they tried to conceive for at least a year without success, went through menopause about a year earlier than women without fertility struggles. The researchers followed these women for decades, which gives this study some real weight. They found that women with primary infertility had a significantly increased risk of early menopause, defined as occurring before age 45. The average age of menopause for women with infertility history was about 50, compared to 51 for women without that history. Now, a year might not sound like much, but when you consider all the health implications tied to menopause timing, it becomes more significant. Earlier menopause means earlier loss of estrogen protection, which affects everything from bone density to cardiovascular health. The study authors suggest this connection might be related to overall ovarian function. Women who have trouble conceiving may have ovaries that are already showing signs of declining function, which would logically lead to earlier depletion of eggs and earlier menopause. It's like getting an early warning sign that your reproductive system is on an accelerated timeline. This research matters because it gives women and their doctors another piece of information to consider when planning for menopause. If you struggled with infertility in your 20s or 30s, it might be worth having conversations about menopause preparation earlier rather than later. Now, for something completely different. NPR reported this week on an FDA-approved wearable device that vibrates to help prevent bone density loss. Yes, you heard that right. A vibrating belt for your bones. The device is called the Osteoboost, and it's designed for women with osteopenia, which is essentially the precursor to osteoporosis. More than 40 million adults over 50 in the US have low bone density, so we're talking about a massive population that could potentially benefit. The science behind this is actually pretty interesting. The belt delivers what researchers call low-intensity vibration therapy. You wear it around your hips for about 20 minutes a day, and the gentle vibrations are supposed to stimulate bone-building cells called osteoblasts. The FDA approval was based on clinical trials showing that women who used the device had slower bone density loss compared to those who didn't. We're not talking about dramatic improvements. This isn't going to reverse advanced osteoporosis. But for women in that in-between zone where their bones are getting weaker but aren't quite in the danger zone yet, it could be a useful tool. What I find intriguing about this is that it's a completely non-pharmaceutical approach. No hormones, no bisphosphonates, no side effects to worry about. You just strap on this belt while you're watching TV or working at your desk. The device costs about $4,000, which is significant but not completely out of reach, especially when you consider the potential cost of fractures down the line. Insurance coverage is still being worked out, but some plans are starting to cover it for women with documented osteopenia. I'm curious about how this fits into the broader picture of bone health during and after menopause. We know that resistance training and weight-bearing exercise are crucial for maintaining bone density. This device seems like it could complement those efforts, especially for women who have mobility limitations or other barriers to traditional exercise. The NPR piece interviewed several women who've been using the device, and their experiences were mixed but generally positive. Most said they noticed they felt more stable on their feet after several months of use, though follow-up bone scans showed only modest improvements in density scores. It's one of those technologies that feels very 2026, targeted, personalized, and addressing a specific problem that affects millions of women, but has traditionally had limited treatment options. Whether it becomes a standard part of menopause care or remains a niche intervention probably depends on longer-term studies and broader insurance coverage. What interests me most about all three of these stories is how they highlight different aspects of the menopause experience that are finally getting serious research attention. Workplace discrimination, the connection between fertility struggles and menopause timing, innovative approaches to bone health. These are all pieces of a much larger puzzle about how menopause affects women's lives in ways that go far beyond hot flashes.
Thanks for listening to Hot Flasher. We're back tomorrow with more, so don't forget to subscribe. See you tomorrow.